If you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or follow us on any of our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram at Live on Four Legs Podcast, and on Twitter at Live on Four Legs Pod.
You know, the thing about vinyl records is sometimes they skip.
It's a Russian thing.
Let me clean the needle for a second. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking camera in the truck. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, and today is the final episode, and when I say episode, I mean show, the final show that we're covering for 2020, and boy, this has been a long, strange year, and we're just happy to get towards the end of it, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're just glad we're there. We got some more things coming up at the end of the month, but this is the last show that we're covering. It's the final destination on our Around the World tour, Toronto, Binaural. This is going to be pretty good, folks. I think this is going to be interesting. We're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about, so let's just get right into it. Randy Sobel over here, John Farrar over there.
Hello.
And John, man, we did it. We did like 40 plus countries. I counted it the other day. It was definitely, it was pretty close to 40, if not past it. So what do you think, man? How'd you feel about going through all these places and you know, getting to witness what the fans were like, and what was your biggest takeaway from all this?
Yeah, it's been really cool. You know, we started in Australia and New Zealand back in the beginning of the year, and I think the thing that sticks out to me is just how consistent they are at these shows. Like it would be so easy for bands when they're, you know, playing to an unfamiliar crowd to just phone it in and play a greatest hits or play like a chalk set list, and so many bands do that, you know, when they go on these long international tours. But Pearl Jam's just not that band, man. They're always going to bring it every single night, no matter where they are, no matter whether they're in Singapore or London or Chile or, you know, New Zealand or Canada or Fargo, North Dakota. Like it doesn't matter. That's just the kind of band they are, and that's the thing that sticks out to me is the crowds and the way that they respect the fans enough to bring their A game at wherever they are.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. I think a lot of the shows that we did, we purposefully picked the ones that had moments like that you can say, hey, this show from Oslo is specific and you can remember it because Strangest Tribe debuted. And out of all places, Oslo, Norway, when is that ever going to happen? That didn't happen in the States. It's just, it feels totally randomized, but it's also, you're right, it is catering towards those fans in those countries that wouldn't necessarily get that kind of treatment with other bands. And even it goes back to the early 90s stuff too, and seeing the ones in Portugal, like 96 Portugal. I think that one, pretty crazy crowd, and you know, just I think the band all getting used to it at that time and kind of getting used to what it was like to tour around the world, and then you go later on and Ed's learning Spanish, he's learning Portuguese, he's learning all these different languages just so he can connect and communicate. And I think that's so important for the fans and the community within that within each country, that Ed communicates with them on this level, because it feels like he's part of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's making an attempt at that connection. We always talk about how he's really good at making an arena crowd or a festival crowd feel like a small club. He's really good at making those connections with people and making it feel like an intimate atmosphere no matter where they are, and that's part of that.
Yeah, and they keep kind of going back to these places because they know that they can get that kind of reaction. And then this European tour that's going to happen and was supposed to happen this year is going to be very interesting, because they're going to a lot of places that they haven't been to in a very long time, like Budapest. I don't think they've been to Hamburg since maybe Binaural tour, if I'm not
Wasn't
mistaken.
there a Vienna too as well?
Yeah.
I want to say there was an
Vienna.
Austria somewhere.
I think they were in Vienna for 2014. I can't quite remember, but yeah, it's a lot of different places that they just don't go to, and it's kind of I think they want everybody to have their moment with them, and it is pretty cool that they do kind of give out that fan service. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out, and if we are going to get a European tour. Obviously, we have some vaccines that are moving around right now, and hopefully that can move in the right direction. But to me at least, I don't think that this is going to be 100% comfortable for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it too. There's probably going to be a day in 2021 where those new tour dates are announced. That's gonna be a big day.
Yep, it sure is, and we're gonna be on top of that whenever it happens. So stay tuned. Actually, so this is kind of funny that we're doing this show today, because these two shows, they had back-to-back dates in Toronto on the 10th of May and the 12th of May. The 12th of May was the last time that they played an arena show in North America. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
That seems like an insane stat to me. And the first show that was supposed to happen in North America this year was supposed to be in Toronto. So it was supposed to kind of be like, where it ended and back to where it began. So kind of interesting that Toronto's in the middle of all that.
Yeah, they've always had good shows there. You go back to that the 2011 with Neil. It was absolutely fantastic. And yeah, they've got a good history with Canada. We're hitting this one as part of the Around the World, but there's so many other good ones we're going to get to.
Yeah, we promise, and we're going to keep this promise. We're promising to definitely focus on way more Canada stuff, especially Western Canada, because this is Canada's show number 2 in Live on Four Legs history. Episode number 110, but Canada's show number 2. That's pretty poor, especially for how many shows they've played in Toronto and how many good shows they've played there. So, right. We're sorry. We're very sorry, but we'll get to all of you guys, from Vancouver to Calgary to Saskatoon to Quebec and St. John's. We'll try to get to everybody as much as we can. But like I said, this one is a really important show because they did Binaural in full. And in 2016, you go back to Greenville. You were there. You go back to Philadelphia, where they played 10. And, you get these shows, and they're kind of spread out because Greenville's in the beginning of the tour. Closer to the beginning, at least, probably like 4th or 5th show in. And in the middle somewhere, you have that Philly show, and now you're ending it with Binaural. So what do you take away from that? And just, I know they were kind of far away from an album release, so it was a good time to do that. So, why Binaural and why this moment?
Yeah, you go back to 2014 and you think about, Moline and Milwaukee being just one show apart back then, and that being such a shock to people. Like, no code in Moline? Like, what? Like,
right.
I remember reading watching the set list unfold online that night and just being like, oh my God.
You got to think
unbelievable.
For both of us, we were at Memphis, I think. That's right. 3 nights before that. That's
right. And yeah, you just like, oh my God. Like, again, this is kind of ushering in the new era where they'll just do anything. Like, everything's on the table. We've seen that in the last couple of years. We saw that in 2018, and they're just throwing things against the wall, and that's what happens when you get to be that old. You have your relationship kind of changes with that stuff. Like, there's no way they would have done that 10, 15, 20 years ago, but now they're a little more comfortable. Their fan base is a little more established. They can, it's all about giving back to the fans. So you go back to Moline in Milwaukee doing No Code and Yield, and everybody always wondered, like, oh, what would be the next one? Will they ever do it again? And then, yeah, I was there in Greenville that night. Like, when the realization hits you, you're just like, oh my God, this is gonna be unbelievable night. This is gonna be so special. And like, I was just lucky I was there to witness it. And then, you talk about the Tenadelphia, the people that were there to get that classic record, in order. That's something we never thought they would do, because all those songs have kind of taken a different place now. They have a different kind of meaning and a different relationship with the fans. But binaural is always the strange one. It's always like, well, they'll never do binaural. Never. It's just too weird. They'll never do it.
Yeah,
right.
And I kind of, let me piggyback off of that, because at least in the scenarios of Versus and 10, you have songs that everybody knows. You can go to a show and they play full Verses, and most people are going to know Going Animal. Everybody's going to know Daughter. Mostly everybody's going to know Elderly Woman. Like, they have songs that pretty much appeal to and spread throughout the casuals, throughout the people that have maybe never seen or never heard too much from them before, that are just going with a friend or with a significant other. And then 10 has so many classic songs on it that just kind of resonate through so many people. So
and radio songs too, dude.
Radio,
people that binaural just didn't get played on the radio.
It didn't, and it's a weird album. It has a weird album structure, which we'll talk about a little bit here, which makes for kind of a weird live structure too. So it's an interesting choice, and unfortunately, I don't know if you felt it, but like there's no moment where you can say, whoa, they're doing binaural. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is happening. Like Moline, I feel like you felt a moment where the turn of the tide happening, when Who You Are, when they were doing the drum beat for Who You Are, but Jeff was doing the bass line for In My Tree instead. Like, you knew at that moment, okay, this is happening. I think you talked about it when Daughter hit at Versus. Right. You said, that's it, this is happening. Obviously, when, I think they started the show with Once and then Even Flow. I think you have to have kind of an inkling right there. But you get Break or Fall into God's Dice, and most savvy fans would probably know, okay, there you go. We're about to do this. We're about to get the full album. But I don't know. We'll get into this. I don't know if this was the perfect album for this. I'm just not sure about that.
Yeah, it's one for the hardcore fans. Like, I would have loved to have been at this one. Like, I don't know that I would have traded Greenville for it, but it's to get all these songs in a row like this. People go back, we talked about that Pink Pop 2000 show where they were, these songs were fresh and they sounded great. Like, we talked about it too, like how they fit right in with the Yield songs and the Vitalogy songs that they were playing. They sounded so good live, and you're 16 more years on from that, so a lot of them have not been played very often, so they're not quite as fresh. They're not quite as tight on them as they were, but it's still just great to hear them all live. Like, this one is more for the people who just want her in it for the novelty, right? Yeah. And now we wonder, if we'll ever get the complete set. They've done 10, they've done Versus, they've done No Code, they've done Yield, they've done Binaural, Avocado, but now the question becomes, like, will we ever get Vitalogy? Will we ever get? Will they ever? Do we have enough of a relationship with Backspacer that they would ever do a Backspacer? Like, what's gonna be the next one? That's what people are wondering.
Yeah. Before we get into the episode, I do want to read a story. This is from our patron Andrew Kerr, who requested this episode a long time ago, so we're finally getting to his request. Like we usually do, we'd have all these outstanding requests from patrons, and we end up getting to them at some point. So this was an early one, when we were starting to really pile up on patrons, and I said, you know what, these full album shows got to wait for big moments, and usually we have ended a year with them. I think we ended the year with Moline, and I think we started the year with Greenville. So that kind of makes sense that we're bookending it with this. So this is what Andrew had to say. I had heard PJ on rock radio my whole life, but I began working with a guy who was a huge fan, so I became more aware of the band while making fun of Last Kiss regularly. The PJ 20 documentary is what really got me hooked. Somehow I snagged some tickets to Night 1 in Toronto in 2016 at the last minute. Really all I knew was the radio hits, as well as anything that stuck with me from PJ 20. They ripped into Binaural, and I thought, damn, I don't know any of these songs, but myself and my girlfriend at the time rocked right out. They proceeded to play a pretty epic set after Binaural. I had no idea they had Comfortably Numb in their live shows, and being a huge Floyd fan, when they played it, I was locked right in. I listened to Binaural endlessly for months, and it still remains a favorite album of mine. That show got me hooked. I went to Wrigley and Fenway in 2018, and I plan to see Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, and Baltimore once this thing gets kicked off again. This show really lit a fire in me for this band. Thanks for doing this podcast, guys. Thank you for writing into us, Andrew. That's
fantastic.
That's
awesome.
Thanks,
Andrew.
And hopefully we get to see you in those places once this tour does happen, whenever it does. 2021, 2022, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, all right, let's kick into the show. They don't start off with the full album. They're going to get a little taste of what Pearl Jam has been doing in most of these shows in the early going. And speaking of going, that's how we kick it off. And not just that, but we kick it off with the album intro to Go. Something they did. I was in attendance at the MSG Night 1 show this year, and they did that. This is not something they do very often, so to get this, you kind of, and I remember at that point, like, I was a little bit confused as to what they were doing. I wasn't sure if they were going to go into Go, but once I heard Jeff's bass, I was like, oh, okay, that was a clue. That kind of caught me, that got me in, and then you wait for it, and bam, right into the song. So, what a way to open. This is great.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, this is so great to hear. And again, it goes back to that. They always throw in those little touches of things to make it special when they know it's going to be a special night.
Do you think that because it's an album opener and because the way that they opened and started the song was the way that it was on the album, do you think that was kind of like an indicator as, hey, this is like opening an album here?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure they did that on purpose. Absolutely. As a little teaser, like, you know, if you're paying attention, here's a little hint.
And did they do that at Greenville, or did they just get into Go the normal way?
I think they just went into the normal way, because I think Corduroy opened.
Right. And then they said, let's play some records. Yeah, that's the one thing from this show that is interesting. They don't really address it until something happens. They're just like, okay, keep playing, talk about some songs, keep playing. But they don't address or ever say, like, hey, binaural. But they're not ones to do that.
Right. You have to be in the know. Yeah.
Exactly. So after Go, you get Do the Evolution and Mind Your Manners back to back, and I think the hits kind of need to kick you off here, because there are going to be fans in this crowd that just don't know what's going to be happening. And you know, once you get into that middle tier after Nothing As It Seems and Thin Air, like, not a lot of people are going to know those songs. So you know, just kind of get their attention early. I think those two songs were the way to do it.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I mean, Mind Your Manners especially is not one that it seems like we always kind of gloss over, but this was like fast and pedal to the metal from second one. Like it just tore into, it was really good. Like, just a great way to lead into Binaural, like I said.
Yeah, no, I think when Ed kind of gives you that howl at the end, the live it hell, Oh, it's just that's when you know, like, you need to start with that song because it's just gonna hook you right away. I love when that song has that feel to it. It just brings that energy right in the beginning of the show. That's the best spot that you can put this song. Good evening, Toronto. Are you ready to make a night of it? And, well, they got the day off tomorrow because the Raptors are going to be playing there. So I wonder, that had to have been a quick change off on the fly, right? Because, you know, they don't know that the playoffs are happening until, I guess, a certain point because the Raptors advanced to, this is probably the second round of the playoffs, you would think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, they might have had to work around this. Yeah, I'm sure they had some crews working all night.
Right. So, yeah, that's got to suck because they got to tear everything down. They got to build everything back up. Yeah, that's that. Ooh, for that being the last day of the tour, thank goodness that was the last day of the tour because that you need a break after that. So anyway, he says this is the 14th show in Toronto, 14th all time. So they've played 15 total shows in Toronto, and he looked up the first time they played, October 1991. You can hear a guy say Chili Peppers in the background. They were opening for the Chili Peppers back then. Yeah. And they played 7 songs that night. And here's them playing lip service to the crowd. Tonight maybe we'll play 9, 10, 13, 14, 20, 25, on and on and on. We're going to play some shit. So this is hyping the crowd, getting them pretty excited. And then, boom, you have that kind of that long chord and bass line, that Who-inspired riff that gets you right into Breaker Fall, and that big scream in the beginning. That starts you off with Binaural here. Right off the top, what do you think? What's your instinct on this? Did they fit the start of the album in the right spot, or?
Yeah, I think so because, you know, Breaker Fall could fit in that number 4 spot. That's not unheard of. And you know, Binaural's a long record. It's 13 songs, so you got to start early. I think they did the right thing by kind of bookending it with 3 in the front and 3 in the back. I think that was, again, done 100% on purpose. Like, let's get 3 ones that people know ahead of time, and then let's put 3 that people know on the end to kind of bookend it. So sure. I thought it was bookended very nicely, and McCready, I think, coming right off of Mind Your Manners, he's still just feeling that on Breaker Fall. This is a absolutely great version of it.
With what they know, he's putting a little bit of extra emphasis on it, saying, all right, if this is the way we're going to kick off, we're going to do it my way. And this is a hell of a way to start the record.
Absolutely.
So God's Dice comes in at number 2.
It's out of my hands, making no hands bleed.
like to kind of make a tradition for 2021, if I can pitch this. I want to take a song that we're covering, that we haven't talked about in a very, very long time, and just do a minute of a song's appreciation, an appreciation for the song, and talk about it for a little bit of extra time because we don't get to talk about it a lot. And God's Dice is certainly one of these songs. There's a lot of songs that we're going to talk about that can fit really nicely into this category, but it feels like God's Dice is something that we've completely skipped over in 2020. So this is God's Dice Appreciation. What do you think? The rolling drum intro right into this, it's a really tight live song. Every time I listen to it, it's a tough one to kind of get the crowd to sing along with, but it plows right through. It's a 3-minute track, and it gets you kind of juiced, kind of amped up. It's a great underrated song in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I love the song. It's one of my favorites on this record. And yeah, like I said, put a gun to my head and ask me to name Pearl Jam songs. There's gonna be a while before we get to God's Dice, but that doesn't mean anything apart in my appreciation for it. I love the song when it kind of slows down and it kind of breathes a little bit, like kind of gets kind of airy. It's people always forget about that part, but it's so good. And this is a Jeff song, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Jeff songs are always interesting. He has a certain way of songwriting that's different than Stone, that's different than Ed. So his songs kind of always stand out like that. It's really good. Love it.
And you got to think about how the original construction of the album laid out. There were 16 songs on it, and God's Dice was actually left off for songs like Education, In the Moonlight, Fatal, Sad, a bunch of those that absolutely deserve to be on the album. But I can't see Binaural without this song.
Well, I think too that this was probably a late one too, and if he doesn't tell the story in this one, but there's another show where he tells a story that originally the song is called God's Balls because right. All God's balls, like it rhymes, but I think they changed it at the last minute to God's Dice, so that was probably a last second change which got it on the album. But yeah, All God's Balls would have been a great sing along. Absolutely, we can only imagine what that would have turned into.
That would have been a really tough number 2 track to sell to the record executives.
Yeah.
That was probably why they just changed it. Great nonetheless, and great to have it here, and hopefully we get it again soon so we don't have to do another God's Dice Appreciation Day at the end of 2021. So I would think after 2 songs, this would be, if not pretty obvious, then you have to have some suspicion if you are a hardcore fan. So, again, it's not like No Code, which was kind of a slow burn before finding out, or with Verses where Go and Animal really kind of isn't uncommon to hear together, and Yield was announced ahead of time. So the expectation here is nowhere. That's really interesting.
I mean, you can just imagine this. It's polar opposites, right? They're the people that, when Evacuation starts, they're the people that are like, holy shit, binaural, like it's happening. This is one of those nights. And then they're the people like, what song is this?
Right.
What are they doing? Like, I don't know any of these songs. You got to think it's either one or the other.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you're right. It's hot or cold here, and people are going to be really into it, or they're just going to not be. And that's just it. But honestly, I think for anybody that has studied the band, this is an important moment. So Ed kind of mentions, he tells this story, and it's a pretty long story, kind of drawn out a little bit, and then kind of takes a different direction. That they were in their hotel this afternoon and the fire alarm went off, and usually you would think it was a drill, but we had to evacuate, and he just kind of babbles on, and he talks about some situations that happened in Alberta and gives a shout out to firefighters and first responders. I don't necessarily remember what happened.
Yeah, I went and looked it up. It was wildfires.
Wildfires.
I think there was like almost 100,000 people that were displaced. Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah, it had just happened, I think, 2 or 3 days before this.
Okay.
So a lot of the country was like on fire.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough situation any way you slice it. But whenever it does happen, Ed kind of gives his little take and tries to keep everybody sane and safe and everything like that. So it's good. And then he'll bring something up later in the show that's, was icing on the cake from that. But you can hear somebody in the crowd say, "Do you even know what they're doing? Did you notice that?"
I listened for it. I couldn't hear it, but yeah, I mean shout out to that guy. Like that, we're with you. That would have been me too. So I'm with you. If I had been there, I would have given you a high five. We would have been giving each other the look. Like, yeah.
So it hits right into Evacuation, the third song off the record. Not only the third song off the record, but it has the third longest drought of any of these album songs. The last time it was played, Amsterdam 2014. That's 52 shows that we haven't seen it. It doesn't seem like a lot, but before that, the first time they played it was 2009. So that's kind of an indicator of how completely rare the song is. 30 times that it's been played. And you got to think the Binaural tour was so long that, there were, way more shows than 30 on that. There were probably like 50 or so.
At least.
It wasn't played a whole lot on that tour. So this right here, if you're a collector, if you like the rarities, this is one for you for sure.
Well, I think the famous line is, "It's like Pittsburgh. It's got 3 bridges." But yeah, I mean, it's just a difficult song to play. I mean, this is a Cameron song, so songs written by the drummer are always weird, and it does have 3 bridges. He always messes it up, and since that 2000 tour, whenever they try to play, there's always a screw up somewhere. This one is pretty good. Give him credit. They sound checking it probably, but it's another one where talk about glorified G from that Versus show where Mike does the fist bump, like, yeah, we got through it.
Right.
This is another one like that. Like, they're just happy to get through.
I was watching Mike in this, and Mike is clearly just paying attention to what Stone's doing.
Right.
And his face was like, how the fuck do we play this again? And like you said, Matt's songs are really tough. There's, like you said, 3 bridges. There's a lot of quick changes. My expectation is never going to be high for a song like this. So to pull it off and for it to sound like a pretty decent performance, hey, that's a good step.
Definitely. And yeah, it's on the record. You got to do it.
Exactly. So moving right along, track 4. Ed says we're going to sing this for a person who we lost, who is profound in our families and communities, and we think about every day.
And then sadness so deep, it gives us the hope to be a better person in every way, each and every day, just in his memory alone. And so if you have someone like that, and you've had that experience recently, 1, we're sorry for your loss, and 2, maybe we just invite them all into the middle of the room and we can play this one for them together.
For him the way he phrases it, it just talks about the kind of the meaning behind the song, and that's the thing that you get in these album shows is like he's willing to be a little more open and talk about it. And there's a couple coming up later that we'll talk about too. But yeah, I love the intro to this. He just kind of says, let's just invite them all to the middle and play. It's just beautiful, and he starts it off way too fast. Like it's almost he's trying to turn it like a bouncy kind of a thing. But Cameron settles it down and he kicks in. I think they kind of get back into it. But yeah, I thought it was great. I love the song. It's one of my top 5. So I thought it was great.
I like when the song has a warmth to it, where it has kind of the same kind of warmth on the record where you're singing to a lost loved one, and I just felt like it didn't exactly fit the well thought out and well spoken quote that Ed had said beforehand. It just, I don't know, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it was just a little overdoing it. I don't know. again, it might be overthinking it. And it's a challenge to play 13 songs in a row that you almost never play when you look at how many times they've played these songs on this tour. This is actually the song that they played the most, 5.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, they had just played it. I saw them it was Columbia, which was just maybe 2.5 weeks before this, and they had played it then, yeah.
Yeah, so number 5, Nothing As It Seems.
He's a little
At least Light Years and Nothing As It Seems feel like they should be back to back on the set list together.
Yeah, Nothing As It Seems, yeah. And again, it fits right in the spot where this would normally be the even flow spot for Mike to take the stage and have his moment. So Nothing As It Seems, I think, fits very well here in the flow of the set list.
Right, and this is kind of, I think, if Nothing As It Seems is played, it would be bumped up a little bit to maybe where either Evacuation or God's Dice is.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, and it's always a highlight of the show because the expectation is pretty high for it. You know, you're getting a good Mike song, but I'm still waiting for a moment from this set. Breaker Fall was one of those moments, but I'm waiting for like that moment where you can pick out and be like, that's the one from the Binaural show. And I had, besides Breaker Fall, we're gonna get to it, but I haven't found that moment yet.
Okay.
I didn't find it with Nothing As It Seems. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Well, it's tough because in the video during Mike's solo, they're just showing Stone and Matt, like they're just showing Stone kind of bopping his head and doing his thing, and you get like he goes over to Mike a little too late. You see him like kneeling on the ground doing like a Hendrix Woodstock kind of a thing, like he's got his guitar out like in front of him, and you can tell he's really into it. It looked like a kind of a holy shit moment, and obviously the solo and Nothing As It Seems is always great. He always kind of elevates a song to another level, but I wish we could have gotten to see that whole solo performance of him. It would have been interesting to see like what he was feeling at the time. But yeah, Nothing As It Seems, I thought it was really good.
Ed makes a speech, and this is actually a really good one, and we talked about it on the show before while discussing Thin Air.
I hope we like playing this one, because this is going to be like, it's like a straight out love song. It's going to be played everywhere. We're going to have to play it every show for the rest of our lives. It's not a problem. I just love this song, and I thought this is going to be a crazy, like if we ever had like a popular song, this is going to be the one, you know? And I thought we should really make a video like Japanese karaoke with 2 paid kind of intern actors walking in the sunset, feeding each other grapes, and then the lyrics would be on the bottom and the bouncing ball would be... It turned out it wasn't like a big radio song or anything, but I still think it's fucking great. It's a great love song. There's a light when my baby's in my arms. There's a light when the window.
While Thin Air isn't one of my favorites off this record, I can see this being a popular song for sure.
Well, then they should have made it a single. Ed, like,
there were a lot of missed opportunities with this album.
Done that.
Yeah.
You were in the band.
Maybe it's because it was a Stone song, and Stone didn't want it as a single. I'm grasping at straws here, but
yeah. But again, some great information about Thin Air that we didn't know.
Sure.
So, but yeah, Thin Air. I thought this was a highlight, and then you get the great moment where he sees the guy singing in the crowd and goes out to sing with him.
Yeah, just a random guy in the crowd with a McCready Mariners jersey.
Shout out to JP.
JP, yeah. That I could have swore when he went up to him, I thought, okay, Ed knows this guy. This is a guy that he met backstage or something like that. He's gonna know him, and just found somebody randomly and connected with him. Yeah. And that's just kind of what he does. And there's just a nice little moment. He says, "I'll meet you after the show, handsome." And I'm sure that's a moment that JP will never forget. So very cool. Very, very cool. Also, the stats on it, if you want them, 42 times that they've ever played Thin Air. And it had been 31 shows since they played it in 2014. So
yeah, it's almost like he was recreating that music video idea live with him and JP.
Sure, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great visual. Absolutely. So we're kicking it back into gear now with a song. This really feels like kind of the meat of the album, where now you get the rock song, now you get the arena song, and it kind of kicks back into gear. Sounds like somebody's guitar kind of craps out on them a little bit, and I thought it was Mike's because he's just walking around in circles. It fixes itself, but that was interesting. I didn't know what to take of it.
Yeah, there's a couple of look like some wrong notes hit or something was off at the beginning, but again, like a song that you feel like it gets played a lot, but it really doesn't. So yeah, it's another one where they're just trying to. That's a theme recurring through this too, where they're just trying to get through some of these songs to get to the ones that they know. But yeah, Insignificance is another one that it's that again. That I'll go back to that Pink Pop 2000 version. Is so good, it's so powerful, and the song it can sometimes get to that level. And this one almost got there, but it didn't quite hit like the song normally does. But it's a great song nonetheless. One of my favorites on this record.
36 times since they had last played it from this show back in 2014, and this is the last time to date. So this is
wow.
Yeah, they didn't play it in 2018. They didn't play it in any of the ballpark shows. That's a travesty to me.
Have they done Evacuation in Thin Air since then? Since we're talking about it, or
Thin Air, yes, Thin Air. They played at one of the ballpark shows. I think Seattle. Evacuation, no.
Wow. God's Dice.
God's Dice. Yes, they played it one more time. Breaker Fall, they played one more time.
You just never get these songs. Yeah.
Of the Girl, 3 more. Grievance only once. Rival, they didn't play at all. Sleight of Hand, they haven't played. Soon Forget Them. So
wow.
Exactly.
These songs are due.
Yeah, this is how rare it is, and this was probably the moment where they said, "Okay, if you want all these, you got to be in the right place at the right time." So, Of the Girl, we're at track 8 here. Superior to side A here. I feel like side A, they were just kind of figuring it out and just trying to work through some of the songs that were a little tougher. But side B, I feel like this is where they figured out what they were doing, and they figured out, okay, we can get through these tough ones.
Right. And Of the Girl is a good kind of reset moment for this, because it's one that they've opened shows with.
They played it two nights before this.
Yeah. I mean, they know what to do with it. They know how to make it good. and everybody knows what they're gonna do and how they're gonna play it. So that they're a little more comfortable with it. So yeah, I think this comes at a good spot in the set.
Yeah, and Mike's little parts. He has like these intricate little parts in that kind of transition from chorus to verse here. And one of those solos, maybe it was the second or third one, probably like 8 seconds long, and I thought it was the best part of the song.
That's a function of like, hey, we're doing this loose, like they're not worried about trying to play hits or anything. Like you're in the middle of playing an album that not a lot of people know, and not a lot of people rank very highly, to put it one way. But so why not just have fun with it and go for it?
Yeah, and there you have it. Especially like you said, this one is one that they are more comfortable, more familiar with. So one that this is insane how this is one of the most underplayed songs in their catalog. It's played a whopping 7 times since 2010. Grievance. How do you even defend that? How do you even defend that? Grievance should have been the #1 single off this album. Without a doubt. Hands down, it should have been it. And maybe it would have sold a couple more records, maybe it wouldn't have. But
it's a statement. It's a thesis statement for this record.
It defines what the idea of this record should be about. It's kind of angry, it's kind of pissed, and it's kind of a changing of the guard. We'll see the full change in Riot Act, where they do get a lot more political, but Grievance is that. Grievance and Insignificance both are really that kind of that transition into that phase of poetry.
Yeah, criminally underplayed.
23 times since they had played it before this show. In 2015, one of the South American dates, they played it, and they played it one more time at Fenway, which I was at, and this just needs to be played more often. It's a great Matt performance, and I just don't understand. I don't understand why this one gets the shaft out of all of these.
Because it was on this record.
But even with songs, some of the other songs on this record, they play a little more. 7 times in a full decade is wrong to me.
It seems like if you would ask me, I would have thought it had been more.
Because the song has been played 145 times altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So that should speak.
A lot in 2000, a lot in 2003. Yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, great performance. Like I said, side B is the one for me. Here we are with another very, very rare song. It's the 10th, Rival. Feels like you're kind of dizzy, you're kind of about to throw up almost. I had the same feel with a riff like Wash. It has the same idea of it, where it just kind of is like a boat in water where it's kind of adrift, and Rival is just that, man. It's another vastly underrated song from their catalog. They busted it out at a show that you were at in the store, right? Jacksonville?
Yep.
So how did the Jacksonville one sound?
It was good. It was very unexpected. I think it was at the end of the first set, the end of the main set, if I'm not mistaken, and those drums kick in, and I think it even took me a minute to be like, what is... Oh, wait, this is Rival? Okay.
Right.
Like, it was just one of those things, like, it didn't even click with me at first, like, because you never even think about it. It's just another one, like a deep cut off this record that you never think about.
Yeah, I was thinking, if I were at this show and knew what was going on within Evacuation, what am I thinking? What songs am I looking forward to hear off this record? And Rival, I think, because it's so rare, because it's so uncommon, even back when they were doing binaural, it just feels like it's interesting when you listen to it, and just their take on it too. It's a little bit down-tuned, but it still kind of it still vibes. It still has that same album vibe to it. It's not going to be the Pink Pop 2000 version where Ed's screaming Yahoo and all that, but it's a good balance between what Grievance and Sleight of Hand is, for sure.
Yeah, and it's got kind of that weird kind of swampy kind of backyard stomp thing to it.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
maybe
also
what I was trying to say.
It's also got a little bit of that, like, the nations are about to explode, and like, you want that, that should be a really powerful, like, crowd sing-along moment, but it never really has been. People just never kind of latched onto the song, and it almost reminds me of, like, a Bush Leaguer or something. This is almost like a precursor to Bush Leaguer, where it's got that same kind of weird rhythm to it that Stone does sometimes. Yeah, it's a strange song, weird song.
Dark lyrics and everything like that.
Yeah.
Dark subject matter. When they busted this out at Jacksonville, it was the first time in 6 years, 135 shows. It's only been played 22 times. So, again, if you were asking for all these, you had to be at the right place at the right time. This was going to be the place. Sleight of Hand is next, and you kick right into it, and Ed is a little bit excited to get in on this song.
The thing about vinyl records is sometimes they skip.
It's a Russian
Let me clean the needle for a second. Routine was the theme. You wake up, wash and pour himself in the uniform. Something he hadn't imagined being.
Did you see Stone?
No, what did you do?
He just shook his head and shit. He was just, Ed, what are you doing? Came in way too early. Like, let that...
Like, we practiced this. Come on.
Exactly. And this is one that they've played more often. This is, 49 times in their history, which is way more than Rival or Evacuation, but it's not common, but at least it's once or twice a tour it shows up. It doesn't have a big delay like Rival had.
And another just great, underrated song in their catalog. Like, why hasn't this one gotten a lot more recognition and notoriety? Like, it's so good. Like, when it kicks in at the end, like, it's really powerful, and they do a really good job with it. This version is great. I love this song. I wish they would play it more. It's one of those that, again, on the back half of this record that you never think about, but when it hits you on the right day, it hits you hard.
It really does, and I think you're right, because when listening to this record for however many years, 10, 15 years, and you get towards the end, you're kind of, after Grievance, you're trying to figure out whether or not you should just move on. And Sleight of Hand was really never one that stuck with me, because it was just out there. I didn't know how to make of it. Saw it live in Brooklyn, and that's when I'm like, okay, I should pay more attention to this song, because this song is actually pretty damn good. And after that, you kind of, once you get older, you kind of can relate to the themes a little bit more, and you kind of understand who the character is. So yeah, especially this version really, really powerful towards the end of the song for sure. When the record skips that part, that's really the first and only time that Ed recognizes that they're playing this album in full. And I wonder if people are picking up on that. Like, are there people in the crowd that are saying to the person next to them that's obviously singing all these songs and feeling it? Are they saying, "Hey, what is this? What's going on?" Or like, what do you think that person is thinking of this?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think there was a lot of like pointing, tapping on shoulders, like, what's going on here? You seem very excited about this, and I'd like to share in your feeling there. Can you explain what's going on? Yeah, because it's just so, like, we've talked about this whole time, like, these songs just never get played, and to get them all back to back, I mean, I'm sure some people thought, like, do they have a new record that we didn't know about that I don't know of? Like, it's a strange choice, and that's why some people thought they would never do it. Like, it just doesn't have those moments in those songs that some of those other albums do, like we talked about. But I mean, you have to kind of make them as you go, and yeah, Sleight of Hand I think is one. This is one of the highlights of the album performance. I think it's fantastic.
I equate this and playing the album in full kind of to when I saw Bruce on the River tour, and they at least announced it was the 30-year anniversary of the River, and where they're going to play the whole album. It's a pretty long album. I think it's like 18, 19 songs. It was pretty long, and the only songs that I really knew and could sing along to were Hungry Heart and The River. And it's just not an album that I knew from Bruce. I know Born to Run. If they did Born to Run, I would have been, okay, I know all these. Born in the USA, I know all these. Hell, even like a really random underrated record like Lucky Town, yeah, I know that record. I'm amped by it. But yeah, that felt weird to me, being there and not being a Bruce super fan. But then afterwards, kind of getting their encore with all the hits and Thunder Road and Born to Run and all that, like, that's when it felt like a real show to me. But this moment could be the equivalent to that with a lot of people here. So, but however, Ed is keeping things entertaining, and this is an entertaining moment for sure.
This song was written about a wealthy guy who was a miserable fuck, and just kind of just made you feel embarrassed to be a human when you saw what he did with his good fortune. And it wasn't written about anybody in particular. It was more of a general theory on rich fucks with no real, that are completely out of touch with the people that they work with, or the people in their communities, or maybe just a little bit more. But now I realize it's exactly about Donald Trump. It's exactly about him.
And boy, did he not know what we were in for. And he makes some jokes with this, and says he'd have to go to Canada if he could, and said that maybe Canada would have to build the wall, and if he moved to Canada, he'd rename himself Getty Vetter. So, just think about how things have changed so much since May of 2016, where it was kind of seen as, well, it's sort of a joke.
Yeah, a little more lighthearted. The tone has definitely changed.
Right. When he came out in 2018, and would talk about this, he was not, there was no more joking. It was, hey, go vote in the midterms. And if he would have been out there this year, they were going to do all those swing states in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Minnesota and all those places. It was coming out again. So, it's important. And yeah, maybe you could laugh a little bit about it at that time, but looking back, you're just like, oh, you don't even know, man. You don't even know. But thankfully, this feels like it's a celebration, because it does feel like the song is more relevant in this current moment that we sit in than the hopeful moment that they're in then.
Definitely. And I think it's a cool part too. I think he gets to the line about whistling and waits for everyone to whistling.
We're all whistling. Whistling. A man will soon forget.
This is the lighthearted moment of this record, and it certainly wouldn't be now. Yeah.
Right. They don't do it. Again, out of these songs, these last two songs are the rarest of the bunch. At least at this stage in the game. They hadn't played Soon Forget in 60 shows. This is going back to the 4th of December, 2013. I want to say that's Calgary or Vancouver, one of those shows, because that was pretty recent, on the calendar. And then this was also the last time they've ever played it. So
another one, yeah.
You would think that, again, this year, if they were out there, they were playing those shows, this one would pop up a little bit, you would think.
Definitely.
So we finished the album off with Parting Ways, and this is the longest delay of anything from this album. 69 shows since they played it.
Curtains, and they've been closed to hide the flames. She knows their future's burden, but she can smile just those still.
They would bust it out one more time, I believe, on the European tour somewhere, but I love this song, and anytime I hear it, I'm just, give me more of this, give me more of Matt, and just that driving drum beat at the end. And it feels like the song is a lot longer on the record, and it just felt like they cut this off a little quick, that they could have kept it going on a little longer. They could have kept it going on, and I just wanted more out of it. This could be a very, very much a crowd favorite song if they decided they wanted to play it more.
Oh yeah, it gets so heavy, and you think of it as being like a 5 or 6 minute song, but I think it's only like 3.5 minutes.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful, great. Love Parting Ways, one of my, again, another favorite on this record, that on the back half that you just kind of gets forgotten about. It's too bad, because it's amazing. Like I said, when that heavy part kicks in, it's so good, and again, it hits you really hard if you're in the right headspace for it.
Away.
26 times. That's it. You
Travesty.
get one more time after this, and you would think we ain't seeing it too much later on, in the future here. So that's the end of the record. Any thoughts on just the whole thing, the way it went down, the feel of it? What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it's just cool that they did it, because it's one of those things that you never thought you'd get. It's for the hardcore fans, right? This is not for the people who know the radio hits and go to hear Jeremy and Alive and Yellow Ledbetter. This is for the hardcore people, and if you knew, then you got it, and then it was very special. And if you didn't, then you just kind of shook your head and went, okay, sure. And again, I love getting the behind-the-scenes information. Some of the little stories behind the songs I thought was great. And yeah, they got through it the best they could. It's just one of those things where it's a one-off thing. They'll never do it again. And it's just one, like you said, you had to be there to get it, and they know that people chase these songs, so they wanted to give the fans a treat, especially in Toronto doing 2 nights. Yeah, I mean, why not? I think it's great of them to do it, and I wish I had been there.
Yeah, of course I wish I'd been there too. Like, that's a moment, I think, if either of us were there or were speaking to somebody that was there, I think that they would have a completely different story and mindset from it. From speaking to some people this week that were there, they were completely shocked and amazed and thought it was wonderful. So I wish that we had some of that context. But yeah, it is a weird album. It's a weird one to do, and to me, it feels like they get comfortable with it around of the girl, and they feel like they can have a little bit more fun with it. And even if they make a mistake like they did in Sleight of Hand, and it kind of cuts the song off, they laugh it off, and they say, well, the record skips, and that's that. So it's a cool novelty. It really is. And this was the last time that they did a full album show. Who knows if they'll ever do something like this again. And you just kind of got to cherish it for the moment that it is. So
yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
We haven't been through a lot of these songs. We haven't talked about a lot of these individually. So that was a good way to get everything in there. And I think we'll get Rival again pretty soon in January, I believe. But maybe not see these other songs. Oh, we're doing a binaural era show in January as well. So maybe we'll see them again. So we'll be able to kind of go back to this and compare a little bit.
But I think this is a good time too to bring up that these album shows always just kind of fuck with the natural order of the show.
Yes, for sure.
We got to talk about it's very well put together. Like I talked about the 3 songs at the beginning to bring you into it. Then you play the album. Then you get these 3 songs after, which are great. Brings everybody back in. Obviously, they don't waste any time. Like, okay, if you didn't know any of those songs, here's this.
Right.
But from here on out, it just messes with the whole flow of everything, and stuff gets thrown around and stuff gets put in different places, and it makes it all weird, but it can be weird in a good way or weird in a bad way. And I think this is a little mixture of both.
I think a lot of people, I think it was a very mixed bunch from reading the reviews and the fan views on this, because I think a lot of people, what they wanted after Binaural was not necessarily, the Rearview Mirror Greatest Hits album.
They wanted them to go straight into Riot Act. Like, can't keep in and just keep going. Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to, play those hits. And I think what hurts this a little bit is that you're taking weird different parts of the set and you're smashing them all in one. Corduroy, which is usually played very early on. Once that's usually, it's kind of a utility player, so it gets moved around a little bit. But Rearview Mirror is always the closer anyway. You never hear Corduroy and Rearview Mirror even in the same stratosphere. So that's a little strange to me, and I feel like a lot of this in these encores are kind of just jam-packed together to try to get all of those. Usually you get Given to Fly away from a A State of Love and Trust or something like that, but in this they're an encore too. It's just a weird thing that they had to sort of regulate on this. There's a little bit of turbulence.
Yeah, it's almost like they were kind of apologizing, like, okay, we know we played a bunch of songs that you didn't know, so here's like a lot that you do know.
Right. And look, Corduroy is great. It's a great version. I think there's a crescendo at the end and has a great feel to it. There's a lot of call and response to it, which we love. Once is fine, and the crowd's going to know it and sing along with it. And Rearview Mirror was a solid version of this as well. It's another great bridge, another roller coaster kind of bridge that Matt and Jeff are really playing off each other in.
Yep, very good.
We are at the encore. There's not much more to say about that, but let's get into some things that are going on in the universe of Live on Four Legs. Like we mentioned, this is going to be the last show episode of the year, but we still got more coming in 2020, and it's good stuff. But let's take a second to thank a brand new patron that joined up this week, Jameen Peterman. You can make the joke from Seinfeld, Jay Peterman, J. Crew. But thank you, Jameen, for joining up to our Patreon.
Thank you, Jameen.
And for anybody that wants to join up and contribute to the show, patreon.com/live on four legs, or search for Live on Four Legs on the Patreon app. John, I'm going to give this to you. What do the fans get for contributing to the show?
Yeah, so you get a chance to pick a show for us to cover. You get a chance to listen to all the exclusive episodes that we have over there. We've been doing a Bridge School series all year. We've been talking about those acoustic shows that they've been doing throughout their history at the Bridge School. Some great stuff there. And we've been doing some Evolution episodes. We just had our release Evolution episode that came out a couple weeks ago. And we've been doing setlist drafts. We got another setlist draft coming up, I think, at the end of this month. So a lot of stuff going on over there. We always do, you get a chance to vote in polls, and we're always kind of throwing interesting stuff up there. And it's a lot of fun. And, we're very thankful for all the people that continue to donate and support us. And, it just makes us want to keep doing more and more for you guys.
Absolutely. And just a heads up, there will be some changes to Patreon coming up in 2021, and we'll let you know once the year kind of kicks in and settles what those changes are. But there will be some structural changes to it. It won't affect anybody that is a current patron, but let's just say if you're interested in joining in Patreon, get on it now. Because things are going to change, and we're going to just kind of change our structure a little bit. So patreon.com/live on four legs. And for a lot of you guys that are interested, we're doing the holiday party tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun, 9:00 Eastern, and I'm going to send everybody the link. If you're interested, hit us up on our social medias. Hit us up on Twitter, message us on Twitter, or message us on Facebook, or you can message me personally. You can also email us, liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to be a celebration of the fans, the listeners, and the people that made 2020 special in the Pearl Jam community. And there are going to be some people there, like we know Sergio from Black Circle is going to be there. Ronan Giavoni, who wrote the Not For You Pearl Jam in the Present Tense book, is going to be there. A couple of the other Pearl Jam podcasters are going to be there. A bunch of other members of the Pearl Jam community that you know and love are going to be there and kind of speak to everybody, and it's just going to be a fun time. There'll be a house band playing some Pearl Jam, so remember, for most of you that did the Secret Santa, keep your gift. We're going to open them that night, and it'll be a whole lot of fun. Who knows what'll happen.
And I think we've been keeping this a little close to the vest, but you might want to show up, because I think we're going to have a pretty big announcement regarding the future of the show and some stuff going around that. So that's all I'm going to say. But you might want to tune in if you're interested in stuff like that, because I think we got a pretty exciting thing we're gonna announce there.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
If we're both excited for it, I think that's going to translate pretty well to our fans, because we know what you guys want, and I think you'll want this. All right, so that's the party that's happening on Zoom tomorrow, Thursday at 9:00 Eastern time. Like I said, just get in touch with us on social media or email us to get involved with that, and we will send you a link. Please do not make this link public. Thank you very much. All right, we're in the encore now, where Ed starts off. He remarks that the city has been great to the band, and they're happy to be there. Lots of memories playing outside with the Ferris wheel, playing with Soundgarden at the outdoor event.
Yeah, and he talks about playing with Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders. Great band from the '80s. People from Brass in Pocket and stuff like that. They've had a great career. Like she's been around like a legend of rock and roll from back a long time. So that's cool too. And they get a little U2 tease too, right?
A song tease?
A little bit. I think he starts a little bit of plays that little high part of starts playing Where the Streets Have No Name, I think.
Well, I'm not a U2 guy, so it probably just went right over my head.
You're not a child of the '80s. That was a little before your time.
Nope. I know the song, but yeah, it's probably not ingrained in my brain like it is for the rest of you guys. So he also mentions the proceeds from the show were going to be donated to the folks in Alberta who need it, and mentioned that climate change is real, and says that Canada is doing a good job trying to combat it. So bust out your phones if you want to capture this moment. They're playing a John Lennon song, Imagine. This is one... I'm at the point with this song where it's just kind of take it or leave it here, because I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's Pearl Jam when they do it. It doesn't feel like they're doing it in their unique way. They're just playing the song, and yes, you get to see the fireflies, the lights on the phones and all that, and that's a cool moment, and everybody in the crowd's gonna know it, but it just doesn't feel like they own it,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because the song kind of was a little controversial this year. They had the celebrity version that was kind of shit canned at the beginning of the pandemic, and we'll see if they actually bring it back or not. I don't know if that kind of ruined the song for everybody, but yeah, I mean, this is them just kind of embracing their classic rock side, and I think we're going to see that a little bit more in the song core. It's just I wouldn't call it pandering, but I think it's more just them thinking like, we need to get some crowd moments in this show that we didn't have in that main set during Binaural. So I think that's why Imagine's here.
True. Yeah, that makes sense. And you get to the next song. The next song isn't common at all. It's actually a lost dog, and one of the rare lost dogs. So those people that were complaining on the boards of, they're playing too much rearview mirror greatest hit stuff, Let Me Sleep is obviously not. And once again, you get Ed telling the story of a song and kind of the background of how it kind of came to be. Says that this isn't the right time of year for the song, but right now, this is perfect where we are right now. This is the time where we're supposed to hear Let Me Sleep. But being in Canada and being in the cold kind of reminded him of it, because he said something about writing it in Jeff's apartment. He said long ago in a galaxy far away in Jeff's apartment, we wrote this song.
You guys did that interview with the Freels and talked about...
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
It turns out, the rumor going around is they played it at their second show ever back in December of '90, even before that December 22nd show. That the legend behind that is like, it was a really snowy night. Like a lot of people, the Five Horizons people weren't sure if the show even happened, because nobody ever knew. They couldn't find anybody who was there. Nobody knew, but evidently, according to the Freels,
Chris was playing on it.
Yeah, and they played Let Me Sleep that night.
So yeah,
maybe right after they wrote it. It could have been that same week.
Right. Yeah, and I should have pried more into that, and maybe at a later date if we get to talk to them again. And they're great. They're awesome, and we can kind of touch a little bit. But maybe at a later date we can pry into that and see if they remember a little bit more. I don't know if Rick was there. Chris was definitely playing with the band, because I don't think Cruisin' was able to make it.
Okay. Yeah,
from what I understand.
And yeah, from all accounts, it was like blizzard-like conditions in Seattle on that night.
Alice in Chains were supposed to play, and they didn't show up. So yeah, it was a real nothing of an event, but something that again we have dug out, and it's cool that the story was told. So should we talk about the performance?
Yeah, it's good. It was a little more of like a folkier feel to it.
I can buy that. Yeah. Do you have a connection to the song this time of year? Do you think about this song or any of the Christmas singles when December rolls around?
I do, because I remember being 14, 15 years old. After we heard this song on the single, and like I would always play this song on Christmas morning.
1992,
1993. Like, this is always my go-to. And it brings back good memories. Always liked the song.
Yeah, I think I was the same for a while, where I just woke up and I would play it. It has this, kind of nostalgic vibe to it, where you can be back in that moment of a kid waking up on Christmas, and that's something I've never had, but it's something that I can kind of live vicariously through with this song and with Ed's lyrics and all that. So it is kind of unique in that facet.
A lot of times, even to this day, like if I make a playlist on Christmas, like if I just want to put a bunch of songs together, and I'll throw this on there, sure.
Yeah, it's a good one, and maybe we'll hear it again very soon. We shall see. This next song is dedicated to Randy. I didn't know I wanted a Pink Floyd song, but thank you very much. No, it was actually a female Randy, probably a Randy with an I. So, whoever that is. That's a nod to the mention last week about
right.
Okay, so we don't have to go forward with that. But Comfortably Numb here.
Like distant ship smoke on the horizon.
And we mentioned kind of the classic rock songs that are here in this set, and this is, again, I think it kind of panders to that crowd that wants something familiar, and you can give them a moment. Everybody knows this song, from Pink Floyd fans to non-Pink Floyd fans, and it's a moment where people can recognize that, but it just doesn't feel like it's Pearl Jam's. It feels like it's Pearl Jam just doing a cover. It's not a Crazy Mary where they make it their own. It's not even Rockin' in the Free World, Bob O'Reilly, where they make it their own. It's a cover.
Yeah.
And I know you don't like
this.
Floyd,
This one doesn't really do anything for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mike is great on it. Mike is always great on the song, and it's just not unique to Pearl Jam.
It doesn't sound like them. Like we can go through their history and you can take songs like Sonic Reducer, even like a Fucking Up, like a Bob O'Reilly, and they've been able to kind of put their stamp on it. But this one it almost feels like they're just a cover band doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's where I get lost with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Middle of the encore even flow. This is, I guess, if you take out the binaural chunk, this would be right around where they would play it, like 9th, 10th, if I could do quick math.
Yeah, if you restart with Corduroy.
Right. Mike is, this is a great Mike song. This is great to bring the crowd back into this.
Hey, I just wrote down Hendrix.
And not only that, but I feel like the chorus at the end, he's putting a little extra emphasis on that too.
Yeah. And Ed does the "We're Not Worthy" bow when he comes back out for the after taking his little break during the solo. That'll reoccur a couple of times on the show too.
Transitions right into Down, which Ed mentions Howard Zinn before playing the song and says he was the ultimate positivist, and changes some lyrics in this to "I think I'll throw these guns away." So that's cool and interesting. I don't think we get that lyric change very often.
Yeah, he'll change that one. He's done different things on it before, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I hadn't heard this one in a while at least. So yeah, very cool. And Down's a great song.
Solo.
Great.
Yep, a lot of good energy, and two to get you into some big hits right here. Better Man in the Porch. And as much as I appreciate that you need these songs and these hits and these spots after a big record, it doesn't feel like they're big moments. It feels, I don't know, it feels along the lines of the rest of the versions of these songs. At least with Better Man, I thought. Porch was actually pretty good.
Yeah, Porch I like, you get the green lights coming down, and, Ed's kind of doing the shadow boxing to them, and, Mike and Jeff are kind of playing along with them and seeing how close they can get to getting hit with them around, so that's always fun. Ed does a really good scream leading into the solo, kind of extends that a little bit, and then he kind of goes out in the crowd and does his thing that he does before. He'll stand on the edge of the crowd and do the hey, hey, hey. He's like, yeah, I mean, it's the kind of things you miss when you're just listening, but for the people who are there, Porch is always a great moment.
You get into the second encore now, and Ed brings up the Raptors, and that's crowd pandering, of course, and says hopes the crowd is there tomorrow to bring it. Mentions We the North and say, well, we're up in the Northwest. He also says he's a Dwayne Wade fan, which gets jeers from the crowd. So
were they playing them in the playoff? Is that
I'm gonna guess so.
There?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess they were playing the Heat.
Yeah.
Says there's power in North because it points up. So I thought that was a really cool line.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take that.
Absolutely.
And now they play One for the Back because they are an equal opportunity group, elderly woman, and kind of like last week where we said, they give some fan service to play to the back. But this one, it felt like they were a little bit prepared for. They had it set up a little bit better.
Oh yeah, by 2016, it was definitely a thing that they were doing almost every night, I think.
And the crowd is so loud for this. And, when you get the line change, that's a pretty common line change. Glad I saw this place. Thank you for taking me. The crowd eats it up, especially first song back from the break. And you get great singing at the end of the song. They're very loud for this.
Definitely.
Give It a Fly, State of Love and Trust. These are like your middle of the set kind of songs that you're getting in the encore too. Like, this is where it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, this feels more like an Encore 1
right
set. Yeah, but it's, again, you have to kind of throw the regular rules out the window at these album shows because, they're doing what they can to fit in these hits and these ones, these crowd pleasing ones. So yeah, you got to get them in somewhere after getting 13 rare songs basically out of the 19 in the main set.
There is a good story before State of Love and Trust, though. Ed was mentioning Jeff's side band, Random, and because he sees somebody in the crowd wearing a full ski mask. I guess that's their shtick, is they wear ski masks?
Yeah, it was like kind of an anonymous thing. They had like orange jumpsuits and full ski masks. Yeah, okay. It was their whole thing. Yeah.
So Ed apparently went undercover and played with them and couldn't get through 3 songs. So introduces the guy that's in the mask as Matt Damon, who's actually in the crowd at the show, which I read.
Okay.
So maybe that's why he said it, but no, that wasn't Matt Damon, but
right.
Apparently Matt Damon was there. So performances are fine. They're your standard, typical performances from 2016 of both these songs.
Yeah, very
Nothing
good.
bad about it.
Yep.
Black, what'd you think of the tag?
I mean, what kind of superlative do you want me to say? I mean, it's fucking unbelievable. Great. Like, again, just add it to the list of amazing Black performances we've gotten. Like, again, you get this Time Heals the Wounds little improv that he will do, and it's just gorgeous.
It's not an improv. It's an actual song.
Yeah, he's done it a few times. He's tagged this on there more than once, I think we've talked about, but it's amazing. Love it.
Time heals, time heals the wounds that no one can see. Time heals, music heals, my face heals. You heal, I heal.
This is one
This
where
feels
he
full.
goes into it. Yeah, he does a lot of it.
Right. Yeah. Very good version of Black. Great. Love it. Gets into kind of a rare cover for them, The Real Me. Borrowing another song. They did a lot of borrowing at this show. And yeah, they don't play this too often. This is the last time that they played it. So we never get to talk about it either. This is a good cover that they have in their arsenal.
But it's fantastic. And again, I always, when I got to see it in Charlotte, I immediately looked to Jeff to see if he can pull off that whistle bass line. It's unbelievably good. It's so great. And he does a great job with it. He does a great job here. It's a good one to kind of get the crowd moving near the end of the show.
Yeah, for sure. And this is, you're not getting a Ledbetter or an Indifference at the show, so Real Me is kind of taking the spot of Alive here, and, your precursor to your bread and butter, and you're getting Alive with Rockin' in the Free World. And Alive has a cool moment in it. He actually says, we're all so lucky that we're all still alive.
Oh, we're so lucky. Look at us. We're all still alive. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The crowd started doing the hey, from the storytellers we've talked about. And Ed, picked up and started doing it, with him, kind of carried it on. I thought that was a cool moment, too, where he kind of yeah, okay, yeah, I'm with you on this. Let's do it. So you don't usually hear that from him.
When anything like that happens and he sort of has to readjust on the fly and think, okay, let's play along to this crowd. It's cool because he's taken out of his element, and that's always one of the best moments that you can get from the band. But here to close the show, Rockin' in the Free World, they get a little guest. Her name is Donna Grantis, who's from Minnesota. She played with Prince for a while, I believe, and she is fucking great. She was awesome.
Yeah, she was in Third Eye Girl, which was Prince's house band or backing band for the last couple of albums that he did. And yeah, unbelievable guitar player. Yeah, I think she was friends with Mike. She actually released a 7-inch record with McCready on his record label. I think that his little Hockey Talk to Her records.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. So yeah, they kind of became friends. And we know that Prince tragically had passed away just a few weeks before this.
Oh, that was before that? I thought it was after. Wow.
It was the night of that Columbia show.
Wow. Oh,
and
that's right.
Yeah, and so this is cool of them to kind of bring her up and give her a moment. But she just rips the asshole off this song. They can't put it any better way than that.
Great that they can share the moment with somebody else and just give them the stage, because usually when somebody else is joining, they join in on vocals, they either play a little bit of the rhythm section or something like that. But no, she you're right, she was front and center of this crowd and ripping the asshole out right out of them. So fucking great stuff. How do you want to do this? Do you want to rank binaural differently? Do you want to give your 3 favorite binaural moments and then your favorite non-binaural moment? What do you want to do?
I think I'm gonna just treat it like a
regular show
we normally do. Yeah, I think
fair enough.
We have to.
All right, let's do it.
I'm gonna go chronologically in order of the show. My number one's gonna be that intro to Go, the original album version intro. Very special.
This is you're starting at number 1.
I'm no particular order. I'm just giving 3 moments.
Okay.
But I'm starting in order of the show. So that's number 1, a little teaser like we talked about for what was going to happen. There was going to be a special night. Very cool. My second one is Thin Air. Him going through talking about it and getting some behind the scenes info that we don't normally get, and then finding JP in the crowd, going and sing along to him. Very, very cool moment. And my last one, I could pick, the Soon Forget moment was great. Sleight of Hand was great. Light Years, I love. Breaker Fall, God's Dice, Let Me Sleep was a cool moment. But for me, it's Black, like we talked about. That version of Black just made me sit down and pay attention. Like, you kind of like breeze through. You're like, okay, binaural, and then we're kind of breeze through this. And you get to Black, and you're like, okay, this is good. And then that little tag hits you, and you're just like, oh, man, great. And as good as Rockin' the Free World was that we talked about, that was, maybe just outside the top 3. But for me, it's Go, Thin Air, and Black.
Yeah, I think Rockin' in the Free World is definitely a memorable moment from the show and should get some recognition for that. But I'm surprised you only went with one binaural track. I'm just gonna do it plain and share my 3 favorite from binaural, because it takes front and center from the show, and right at the beginning of when they started, like that solo in Breaker Fall is just fucking whoa. That just set you back, and that was amazing. That was an amazing way to start. And yeah, it kind of got a little bit rocky for me in side A, but side B gets really good. I really, really dug Of the Girl. I really dug Sleight of Hand. I think if I'm to pick moments, I would say probably Sleight of Hand and then Parting Ways for this, because I really love this version of Parting Ways too. So, no disrespect to Soon Forget and the storytelling there, but yeah, those were some cool moments. Sleight of Hand was really, really good from this show.
It was.
Rating time. Let's figure out how we're going to rate this.
Yeah, this is tough because I don't think this is a perfect 10 show.
No.
But I don't think it's far behind. From all the rare performances that you get, and, this is one for the hardcore collector, and I am one of those people. So I would maybe give this a higher ranking than someone who is not one of those people. So I'm going to say this is a 9.5.
Yeah, this is tough.
It is tough.
Because
it's a great show, but I don't think it... You think of those album shows, you think they're going to be, it's top, and this one is just below some of the other ones, I think. But Still some really good stuff.
Everything that came after in Moline was amazing, and everything that came after Greenville was really good. It's been a while since I've listened to 10 from Philadelphia and Milwaukee. I'm not even sure if I've listened to Milwaukee in full, but I don't know. It just left me, it left me feeling kind of empty with this. It felt like there were 2 completely different sets. And yeah, there's the binaural part of the show, but then there's also everything else. And it didn't feel like they were all together. So I'm having, there's a side of me that's saying, for history's sake, how do you see it in the light of history? And it's very high. It's within all the other albums. Or how do you see it within just your total enjoyment of this show? And that's probably a little lower than those. I think this is so tough, because I don't know if I want to make this personal or make this about history, because I'm a collector too, and I would have loved to be there. I would have loved all of those songs, but you also have to think of a little bit of set list flow and a little bit of, how condensed everything was at the end. And I might get heat for this. I'm going to give it an 8 and a half. And a half.
Okay.
I'll give it an 8.5.
Okay.
That's like right in between my idea of where it stands in history and how I personally feel about it. Because I think where it stands in history is probably around where you said, like a 9.5 or a 10. Because you just really don't get higher than playing a full album. But, as a full show, it needs to be judged fairly. So there you have it. That was a little tough to get through, but I judged as fairly as I could. Okay, that was it. that was all of around the world. We done however many countries, 40, 35, 40 countries, however many we did. And it's done. We did them all in 1 year. So what the hell do we do next year, guys?
What should we do? I think if we've gone around the world, I think we gotta maybe time to go home.
Why go home? We're going to do a Seattle series next year where we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the band in Proper. We're getting the 30th anniversary of 10 and a couple other things that happened in 1991. And we kind of want to tell a little bit of the story that was happening within Seattle and within the hometown, because it's going to be, we're going to be doing it from all eras, from 91, 92 to 95 and 96, and a lot of good stuff from that era in 98 as well. And we're just going to see all the great hometown shows. You pick them, you name them. Mural Amphitheater, Drop in the Park, 11/6/2000. Like, there are some legendary shows that happen in Seattle, and I think we need to give it its due. So that's what's going to happen in 2021. Hopefully the first show of every month is going to be a Seattle-related show. So if that's not something to look forward to, I don't know what is.
That's going to be great.
It is. Why don't we tell them what's going to go on for the rest of the year on this show? Because we're still going to be putting out an episode every week, maybe a little more. John, do you want to tell them? Tee them up for what's happening?
Yeah, so if you guys remember, we're kind of near the end of the year here, so we kind of want to do something a little more fun, something for you guys to listen to over the holidays. So you guys have maybe heard us talk about this podcast called Deprogrammed, which is run by a very nice guy from Virginia named Justin. And they had done Pearl Jam. And I've told this story before, but they had done Pearl Jam, but I didn't think like they really did it justice. They didn't really cover all the albums. And what the show is they try to find a 10-song starter kit for a band if you're going to get into a band. But for all of us, we're already into Pearl Jam. We don't need a starter kit. So what we had the idea that we would do like a championship edition of Deprogrammed, where we would take all their albums, divide them up, we got a panel of, I think, 6 people, you and I included, and we're going to try to get down to the top 10 favorite Pearl Jam songs. It's kind of part game show, part music discussion. We've recorded some of it already. It got very heated. There are some very interesting choices made, so I hope you guys will check that out. But we're basically gonna play tournament with Pearl Jam songs, and we're gonna break them down and talk about them and talk about which ones we like better than other ones, and we're gonna eventually get to a top 10 and then a top 1. So if you're into stuff like that, if you want to hear us argue about which songs we like better and make fun of people who don't agree, then you want to be on the lookout for that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And all I got to say is just don't take it too seriously. If your song doesn't qualify or we say it's in the trash, like, don't be offended by that. That doesn't mean we
just
hate the song.
Play along if you want to. Let us know. Let us know what yours would be. So yeah, we're just kind of doing a little fun thing for the end of the year here.
Right, and we get it. The first episode will go through all like 4 groups, like you said, random albums, and that'll get us to 40 total songs. Then a second episode will come out on next Wednesday. That will be the finals where we go through those 40 songs. And then after that, we will also have a version of the songs that didn't make it, which are the trash pile songs, which again isn't trying to offend those songs, but it's just
and that's going to be for our patrons. So be on the lookout
that's going to be for
Patreon.
The patrons. Yep. So probably maybe after Christmas, maybe the week after Christmas. Look out for that. So, and yeah, we'll do the last show of the year will be a best of the guests. It'll be a clip show. So if you haven't been tuning in for very long and you want to hear just what we've done all year and just kind of a recap of it, and we'll be on to introduce this stuff. So you'll get some new content. And for anybody that's a patron, you'll want to listen. We'll do our Patreon roll call, which if you've watched the news at Christmas, you'll see everybody's name scrolling down because those are all the people that have worked on the show. Like that's going to be our version for that, to thank all the patrons and people that have contributed and guest starred on this show. So
we had some fantastic guests this year. I'm looking forward to checking back with that. It was great.
We figured out there are going to be 9 special guests that we're going to highlight in this episode. So that's pretty good. Yeah. I think we have a lot to live up to in 2021, so let's see if we do. And I hope you are all having a fantastic holiday season and staying safe and staying warm. And hope to see you all at the holiday party. It should be a good time, and we'll be back at some point. Probably we'll talk a little bit about it at the Best of show. And it's just a good time of year to be around your family and get some good vibes. There's some good vibes going on at the end of 2020 for what was mostly a pretty awful year. All right, but that's it for this one. We have traveled fully around the world. We've gone from Japan to the Philippines to Australia to New Zealand to Norway to Germany to Budapest to Brazil to Chile to Argentina to Mexico to Canada. Those aren't even half of what we've done this year. We're forgetting England, and we're forgetting Ireland, and we're forgetting Spain and Portugal. We did a lot this year. Costa Rica. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff done this year. We're very proud of it, and we hope you all enjoyed it. And if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to the episodes. Most of them are very good, if not all of them. So check it on out. And if you like the show, give us a little bit of a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That would be nice. That would help us out a little bit. Give us a little push. So this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. Thank you so much for a good 2020 and a good ending to 2020 when it got bad at times. It was good to know that we can rely on just talking to you guys every week. So thanks for continuing to tune in, and we may see you next week. Hopefully we'll see you for Deprogrammed, but if not, we will see you in 2021.
Some good things on the horizon.
Kelly Van. Okay, North. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you again maybe soon. Thanks. Peace. Much love. Cheers. Good night.